companies reporting over the next few days. We just want to kind of highlight a few of them here. And as we spoke about, certainly after the close on Wednesday, we will be looking in huge anticipation of what could take place in regards to Tesla on Wednesday after the close, but then also super strong over the last number of months is Microsoft. So this upcoming week, we're going to see a lot of major names that could move the market in a very significant direction given their size. Even coming in on Tuesday, Coca-Cola right before the bell, and certainly toward the last part of the week, we have some very strong tech names as well. So we want to watch, and we'll see how this continues to impact any hypotheses that we do talk about this week. So there's a lot of uncertainty in regards to direction, and when there is uncertainty of the direction, there's typically some type of movement outside of range, and albeit upward or downward. So we'll take a look at what's going on, and as always, we'll start with the S&P 500. Now, before we jump into our S&P, please don't hesitate and don't forget to hit the subscribe and like buttons below. And also, if you have some feedback on what you like, what you don't like, please don't hesitate to provide information into the comments. We take a look at all the comments and look to provide as much value as possible. So as we look ahead on the weekly charts for the S&P 500, you could see that the majority of the week we were below this longer term trend line that was certainly breached right off of the open, but we did see a pretty consistent sell-off toward the front side of the week, which brought us down to test a high volume node that we've seen and been tracking over the last number of weeks here, and then a very quick reversal right back upward into range toward the latter part of the week, and spending majority of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, relatively going nowhere. Again, the title of this video is called Tesla Coil. So we are winding up for some potential moves. Now, what we want to take a look at is there an opportunity to try to anticipate where that move will come? And we do believe it will come this week, given the amount of very large companies, as we stated, that are reporting earnings this week. Now, we do want to highlight roughly about that 322 level, a very longer term trend line that hasn't been able to be breached in the last 2 weeks. So this area will be very critical for us to see if we can get a push above these levels and look for some areas to try to anticipate and take advantage of a potential rejection of this level and kind of pulling us back inside of range. Now, if that does take place, we will look for an area if we can breach this longer term trend line. If we do that and push through this low volume node, which is kind of highlighted in this gray region, we do anticipate a longer term sell-off potentially happening and will push us back down close to the 300 range. Now, that's a very aggressive prediction for the upcoming week, so I'm a little hesitant to go out on a limb in that regard, but there always is this uncertainty of us will push up or down. So we want to come up with kind of two types of scenarios and let the market unfold, and then we make a decision. But we do see this trend line as continuing to hold, as we've knocked on that door, so to speak, a number of times, and it will only take some larger news, primarily for earnings, to push us up higher to kind of breach it. Now, if we looked at the daily chart, you can see just a little bit more visibility on where we have some consolidation as an opportunity. Over the last few days, you can kind of see we've been pretty much going nowhere over the last few days. So there is a catalyst to come out of this balance area and potentially kind of test this value area high on the weekly chart, which is roughly double the range of the balance area. But then conversely, we do see this as an opportunity coming back into range, and if we do get full follow through throughout the week, we may see a touch of that 312 level, which is the 20 period moving average, but then also it's double the balance range that we've seen. So as we look ahead, we want to kind of keep our eye on that. And as we move on to the Nasdaq, you can see a very significant sell-off. The only one of the majors that began to sell off. We see a very strong range that we'd like to try to understand. Is there an opportunity to break below this level and continue to push downward into this longer term balance that we see down here. Now that will take a long time potentially, but we do want to highlight this trend line that we did see as an opportunity for us to kind of keep our eyes on this level, and then this level. And we want to try to ensure that this trend line continues to hold itself. If we can get our tools going, we will highlight and look for this opportunity to potentially retest this region. If we come in, you can kind of see this look above and fail that we highlighted previously in our last video, that we have come back down into range. Now we will look to see if we can break the close of this past week and see if there's continuation to the downward. Now that could be accelerated if there is follow through from the bears, given some of the earnings that we'll take a look at. So we want to kind of keep our powder dry, but look for the opportunity. We do feel that there is some opportunity for the bears to step in and overwhelm the bears, but certainly the bulls are looking to take some profits off of the table, given this pretty aggressive run from the lows, upwards of almost 60% of a gain from our low COVID lows in regards to the last part of March. So it is time for some profits to be taken. And if we drop down to the daily, we are relatively close to that 20-period moving average, which could be a nice bounce point for us to kind of take a look at this range moving forward if we do continue to see some sell-off. So as we move on to the Russell, we'll take a look at those opportunities. And as we stated on the onset of the video, the Russell has been very aggressive, and we are continuing to see higher highs as well as higher lows, which is still an indication of a very bullish trend. And we can see these higher highs and higher lows here, and then certainly last week. And we want to kind of follow these, but at the same time, we have noticed that there is some potential for a little bit of a rejection as we kind of came into this longer term trend line going back all the way to the middle part of February. And we want to see if this is going to begin to slow us down. So our call for the Russell this upcoming week will be kind of sideways to even potentially down if we get some rejection coming into the front side of the week. And there could be another opportunity for kind of another look above and fail and kind of rotate backwards, which would give us a little indication of what is taking place for the broader perception of the economy. And if we look to zoom in here, we can see that we came right in on the Porter control on the daily chart and have not been able to breach that, and still looking for some type of sell-off and potentially filling the gap that we've had toward the latter part of the week that was created on this larger sell-off here. So the Russell is looking one of the potential weakest for understanding direction, but we do have this trend line that still showcases itself to be a little intact. So that's something I'm certainly going to be keeping my eye on if this area can be breached with this trend line to kind of help us push ourselves right back down. So that's something to take a look at. And if we go now on to the Dow, you can see very similarly, we had an opportunity to come in on the weekly, hit the POC and look for an opportunity to sell off, and still above this longer term trend line as something to kind of keep our eye on. Now, typically the point of control is an area where traders look to close out positions, not necessarily looking for them to create new ones, but it is something of note that this area was clearly rejected and certainly will be tested over the next couple of days. And if that does hold true, I certainly would look for some type of kind of continuation to the downside and potentially coming into this type of support area, which maps into a low volume node on the Dow. So we want to kind of keep our eyes open for this potential reversal down. Now, do I feel it's going to be a very significant downturn. I don't know. But if we do see follow through below the low of this current week, I would look for us to retest back down to the bottom of the range, which is roughly about $150 amount level. So we want to kind of watch that. Now, if we take a look at gold, very similarly, we are in a large trading range toward the latter part of the week, but certainly again, twice now, we've seen a look above and fail this longer term trend line here in blue. And ironically, we did test below it, but came back above it, which is now a slightly bullish type scenario. But we want to see how the first few days unfold. Now, there could be some particular hedging. Now, we just came off of option expiration. So a lot of these prices where they're closing were somewhat predetermined based upon open interest and volume and looking to hedge what we are seeing in the equities as well. So we'll want to kind of keep our eye open for this upcoming week. It's going to be an exciting week. Some major names are going to report, and we're looking for some opportunities to take advantage of price movement, albeit upward or downward. So many of you are like, hey, Carl, we know the market can only go two directions, up or down, but it's hard to hypothesize given the amount of balance or horizontal movement that we've had. There's no clear delineation, and that's just the market is looking for additional information to help us pick a particular direction. As always, we'll close out here. Please don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button. Please give us your feedback, and as always, it's your money and it should be under your control. Take care.